Notes on my floor, plans that I drew, every red line pulling me from you. I chased every road till the roads ran out. Now it's cracked dry ground and a quiet doubt. But in the still, I hear you call my name through the static of my shame. You're my true north when the compass bends, when the night pulls hard and the dark creeps in. You cut through the noise with love that won't move. Jesus, you're the center. Every road comes back to you.
And we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to True North Christian Media. So sorry we were not online yesterday. Me and Vincent both had some other obligations come up. His more of the church con, mine of personal reasons. But we were back today, and we're glad that you're with us. My name is Matt,
And I'm Vince.
and hope you had a good start to the week today, and hope you all had a great Sunday service yesterday. Had an opportunity to attend a service somewhere. If you didn't, just wanted to let you know that we have a really great live stream that you can always join on Sundays if you don't have a church. And as always, those links are in the comments, in the description. If you're on Facebook, they're in the description. We post them everywhere, so feel free to check our church out, Grace Christian Fellowship, at one of the two links. You can go to the Facebook page, you can go to the website, or you can go to YouTube. If you're on Facebook, just type in Grace Christian Fellowship or GCF Ada, and it'll pull up. If you're on YouTube, GCF Ada, it'll pull up. But yeah, we had a good Sunday service yesterday. Pastor Zach did a fantastic job with his sermon. I'm really enjoying the What If series that he's doing. And what were your thoughts on it?
I felt like our Wednesday went really well.
Mhm.
Just with the series seems to lend itself very well to exploring the topics more deeply and
Mhm.
getting further into just some finer points, or even leading on to new thoughts and things like that. I kind of
Yeah.
realized a little bit with going deeper through while preaching through a book of the Bible.
Mm.
While I think is valuable, it seems a little bit limited, because if you're preaching through it, if you're teaching through it as you should,
Mm.
you're probably catching most of the things.
Mm.
You're probably catching most of what's in it.
Not
But
always,
yeah, it was
though.
something.
Not always. I mean, I think.
I said probably.
Yeah.
I hedged.
I think too, though. Like, you miss sometimes. Maybe. Like, for instance, I think there's further explanations that can be made for certain books. Certain books, right? Like when it comes to red letter text, it's pretty like Jesus said this. Now, if you need help understanding a parable, things like that, to truly grasp what the parable is saying, I think that's one thing that sermons do really good when it's a book series kind of thing. But I agree with what you're
Yeah.
saying.
But no, I felt like our last Wednesday went really well. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to this Wednesday.
Yeah. I really hope that
Who
we
knows?
swap over internet. 'Cause
Yeah,
that was
same.
I was kind of not frustrated. I mean, it happens, but to make
It's 2026.
yeah,
You know,
it's 2026, and the whole premise of this thing is to make it available to live people or to online people, and when you can't, it's
Yeah.
kind of frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we had the foresight to at least record it, and then we posted it afterwards, and for the people that wanted to watch it, it was there.
I meant to ask Zach about that if Dobson called him back, because he said he
Yeah.
filled out their online contact. So
Yeah. My mom said
hopefully they
that.
get back.
Yeah, my mom said that Dobson came out to her house today and was and they're getting Dobson as well. So I said, "Well, let me
Nice.
know how it goes." I'm actually gonna go over there when they get it installed. I'm gonna run some speed test. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna bog their computer down or their network, and then I'm gonna speed test it and see what it comes up with. That'll tell
Interestingly,
me.
m- my wife got an email from Starlink, and they're like, "Hey, are you interested in this free like go anywhere setup? Like, we'll send you all the equipment for it, and if you ever want to use it, it'll activate that part of the subscription, and
Mm,
it'll be an extra $10 a month." Because on the level that we're running right now, I guess they're just offering that now for a little extra if you want to use it. So I
hmm.
think we're gonna get the take it with you internet
Oh, that's cool.
for for going and doing stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's a good idea. I'm trying to think if
for what she described and what I was saying, it's like, okay, why wouldn't you accept the free equipment and then
yeah.
just use it if you ever felt like it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm,
Shoot, I could probably even just hook that up out here,
yeah.
if I ever was really having speed troubles, but
Mm,
it's working just the way it is. So,
nice. How many windows do you have in your shed?
counting the door, 4.
Are they pointing towards where the router would be?
Yeah, I've got so my mesh node
Uh-huh.
is in that window across the way towards the house,
Uh-huh.
and then the main router is maybe 20 to 25 feet away from it through one wall.
Oh, gotcha.
One window, one wall. That's the only thing in between those two.
No, it's doing pretty well.
Now, if I take that mesh node and I move it over here,
Mm,
15 feet further, it gets a weak signal.
yeah.
But if it's over there, it's fine. Plus, I have the old router set up as a mesh node in the living room, so internet spread even further that way.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really impressed with just how simple Starlink is
Mm-hmm.
to just use.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, plug this stuff in and it works. There's no fancy, honestly, I feel like they designed it for the default. If anything needs to be reset, to do the old turn it off, leave it off for 10 seconds, and turn it back on.
Yeah.
If anything needs to be reset, you just do the default, turn it off, turn it back on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Miss Danelle is in the chat. Welcome in. Danelle, I wanted to show you something. So Brian ordered a hat, right? And this is no fault of the company, but I wanted to show you this first. So you have two options. I can give you the hat, or I can give Brian the hat, and everything stay the same. If you're not happy with it, I can refund the money and still give him the hat. Or if you just want the money and want me to keep the hat, it's up to you. But this hat was supposed to be black and gray. And when I ordered it, I thought I clicked black and gray, but I actually clicked gray and navy blue. Now, while this doesn't look bad, this is it's a nice hat. It's not black, and that's not what you ordered. So the opportunity or the option's yours. You can take the hat and get a refund, or you can take the hat and leave everything the same, or you can say keep the hat and I'll still refund your money. So you tell me what you want to do, but I don't want Brian to be unhappy with what he thought he was getting and not getting that. So just wanted to point that out, because me and him were the only ones that ordered that specific hat. So I got one that's blue and he got one that's blue as well. But anyway, I'll wait for that response. God, man, that irritated me so bad when I opened that box and I was like, why does that look weird? I was like, that's blue. I was like,
oh, I bet you were ready to just go after it. Like, oh, they did something wrong, and then you went and checked.
yeah, I did. I was like, man, they gave me blue ones, and then I looked at my order, and sure enough, I was the one that selected navy blue and dark charcoal. And I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that?
Honestly, that navy blue doesn't look bad
No, it
if
doesn't.
it wasn't the black medallion. I feel like if it was a gray medallion or
Honestly, I think just because of how
Navy
dark it
blue.
is, like you got a little bit of red, you got some white in the logo, and then you have the blue. I think like patriotically, it looks pretty sweet. Um,
Maybe.
but
I mean, I don't mind that navy blue.
yeah, don't know. He says it's fine. Okay, perfect. Well, again, like I said, that's not what you ordered. Just wanted to make sure it was okay with you. If not, we'd be more than happy to refund the money, and you can still keep the hat. So I'm not here to do that with people. So, but if he likes it, then we'll give it to him.
Oh, did you work on your shed anymore
Man,
yesterday?
yes, I've worked on it basically every day. This week, hers will be done. I got the flooring in today. I did a nice laminate plank hardwood. It's called gray oak. Um, did that in there, and then she went and picked out her paint. She's doing it in sagebrush green. It's like a light green. I have a couple of trim pieces left and some caulking around the windows and some other places, and yeah, we're gonna paint it, and hers will be finished, and then I can start on mine. So I am
Oh, you haven't started yours yet?
no,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Hers was
oof.
the small one.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like hers was only kind of a pain because it was in panels. I do all of mine is tongue and groove, like shiplap and V groove board. So like mine's just stack it on top of each other, nail it, and continue on. It's like Lincoln Logs.
Yeah.
Hers was like panels, and like they were number two panels, so they had a lot of imperfections in them. They weren't straight. Like there was a lot of problems with it. That and the inside of the building wasn't necessarily square because again, it's a shed and not a house. So there was some things that we had to work around, but yeah, for the most part, man, it's almost done. It looks really good though.
I'll say the interior on this one
Mhm.
was pretty square.
Yeah.
And I didn't even stop to think about it, but it's just like, this is pretty square.
Mm.
But if you talk to builders, like having anything actually square
Yeah.
is kind of a miracle in
Oh
and of
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Like, guys, is it always straight? Like, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
So I just sent you a
Like, don't go
text.
looking at your house too close.
Yeah, don't look at it too close. As soon as this sends, you'll have a video kind of what the flooring looks like. It looks pretty good. And the size, like hers is a 10 by 20. And yeah, I mean it's a really good size. Just waiting for this to send. There it goes. It says delivered.
Sorry, we're just quietly watching
Yeah.
our own videos.
uh
Okay, so it's you this one's a
Studio.
the single like single slant roof.
Yeah, they're called studios where it has the lighting
Got
above and yeah. Just a 10 by 20
Okay, all right.
with some
It's
beadboard
nice. It's nice.
plywood, and I'm just doing furring strips for the trim and caulking them and moving on. So it's gonna look really good though. I'm really happy with the work. Yeah.
I just need to put up all the stuff that's on the floor in here
Mm.
that came out of my safe room.
Oh yeah.
I just haven't done that yet. I have empty shelves and stuff in piles on the floor.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm at.
It's the way she goes.
I'm
Alright.
just enjoying having a little
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, let's get rolling into it. Tonight's devotional is titled Jesus is Stronger Than Our Fears. It says, though storms may rage around us, Jesus is still present. He is our calm within the storm. And we're going to be looking at Mark 4:37 through 39, 1 John 4:4, and Psalm 103:13 through 14 tonight. So Let me flip over to the Bible here. And whenever you're ready, I got Mark 4:37-39 up.
And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm.
Okay. 1 John 4:4 says, Little children, you are from God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And Psalm 103:13-14, please.
As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. For he knows our frame, he remembers that we are dust.
Wow. I mean, that's for he knows our frame, he remembers that we are dust. Like just saying he knows that we were formed, like how we were formed. Is that what he's saying there?
Yeah, there's a footnote here. For he knows our frame is also could also be translated. He knows how we are formed.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay, moving on to the devotional. It says, "The evening Jesus calmed the fierce gale on the Sea of Galilee. Gale. Okay, the fierce gale on the Sea of Galilee. His disciples were terrified. Watching a storm from shore is one thing, dramatic but distant. But when you're in the boat with waves crashing over the sides and rain pelting your face, fear becomes very real. We all face storms of some sort: physical crisis, um, relational ruptures, financial pressures, overwhelming circumstances. When troubles hit, we might find ourselves crying out, God, where are you? He is where he has always been. The problem isn't his absence, it's that fear can make it hard to see him clearly. Remember, this is Jesus, whose voice commands nature itself. He is sovereign over every type of storm we face. Our Savior knows we are frail, and he doesn't stand at a distance critiquing our panic. He is present with us in the chaos, and he speaks peace into our heart even when the circumstances haven't changed yet. With 3 words, Jesus calmed the storm instantly. Sometimes he calms our storms just as quickly. Other times he calms us in the midst of them, giving us his peace while the waves still rage. Either way, he is faithful. When we turn to him in trust, we discover his presence is always more than enough. Oh, let me make sure I don't have anything in Facebook, and then we'll... Curtis Bell. Hey, sorry, Curtis, I just seen your message. Good evening, sorry if I'm interrupting. Is there anyone that can please help me get food supplies and Pampers? Okay. I'll reach out to you after this, Curtis. It's a non-local number, so we'll chat. Okay, go ahead and dive into your point. What are your thoughts?
Man, I don't know if I have much to add just yet.
Okay.
I sat here thinking like, yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very just kind of matter of fact devotional. But I will say too that we've talked about it numerous times that um, in the midst of storms is when he's doing some of the greatest work, his greatest work, right? Like he works tremendously through our storms, and it's not always that he stops the storm, but there's something that happens in the midst of the storm if we're focused on him. That he doesn't take the circumstance away, but he gives us the strength and the peace to endure. And I think that there's something really beautiful in the fact that he doesn't take things away from us, that he lets us endure them, but he gives us the strength and the peace that we need throughout them, and that he gives us what we need in the midst of those storms. Um, there's how often has fear or panic struck you? Has it ever crippled you? Fear or panic?
Man, you're asking me to remember things.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking like
I
in
just
life's greatest storms. You know what I mean? Like whether
yeah,
that be like losing a job or worrying about like how you're going to provide for your family or worrying, like all these things that we worry about, that can be big circumstances in our lives. Um, do you ever recall a time where God's pieces just came over you and He said, "Hey, it's okay. I got you." You know what I mean? Like where He's filled you with that peace and that strength to endure the storm that you're going through.
I think I've had that happen, but at the times, taking an example you gave, finding out that the job that I was working was, I wasn't losing the job, but the job itself was going away.
Hmm.
So I was going to have to find something else. And, I wasn't worried, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just something else to do.
Hmm.
I did have a peace about it, and, I realized that there is work in front of me and new new things that I was gonna have to work on, but at that time, I was just I would hope that it wasn't just apathy,
Mm.
kind of whatever attitude, but also at that point, I was a young father, and, my wife and we'd been married for about a year and a half, so I had people to look out for, but,
Mhm.
I was just I had peace through that time,
Yeah,
and, there's work to be done, but also it wasn't too bad.
yeah.
And I think in that he was probably protecting me more at that point than he might now.
Mhm.
That he I think he might leave me alone a little bit more to seek that peace
Mm.
rather than giving it because of, just the maturity aspect, because I feel like a lot of the times we get as much help from him as we need, but no more.
Mm.
We're given enough to keep going, but not so much that we expect him to do everything.
Mm. Yeah. I think in the midst of, Vincent's wife says, "We were buying a house during that time too. I don't remember being worried or filled with fear either." Yeah, and I think of this too, maybe it doesn't always have to be this huge circumstance, but, like, when we first started doing this and I was telling you, like, I actually told quite a few people, I just felt very inadequate to do what we're doing. Like, there was a lot of, uh, doubt and a lot of fear in doing this because I was like, "Man, I'm not a preacher. Who am I to sit here and talk to people about God and all these things?" And, like, I can't read good sometimes. I'm getting better at reading because I'm doing it more. Just I sometimes speech and sometimes memory has a problem, you know what I mean? And then but we've talked about it on here so many times of how God will speak to you and he sends people. And I remember you sending me that verse that day and like I remember this, it was like aha moment, but it was also filled with a lot of like peace in the situation because it was running rampant through my mind because a majority of the battles that I fight just in my own personal life are in my mind. It's not so much that the situations around me are poor. It's just I have a lot of not arguments, but battles in my mind. And I remember that there was a huge piece that came with that verse that you shared. And I remember that day very, very vividly of just like, wow, okay, like I'm good. You know what I mean? Who is this? Somebody's calling me from Canada. I don't know any Canadians, so sorry.
You can blame them if you'd like.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
just one of that's one of those things, right? Where I found a great peace in God's response in the midst of something that could have been considered a storm in my mind because it was something I was wrestling with. It was something I was struggling with. And that's just an example of God giving you what you need in that moment, and sending somebody to give it to you. And through that, there was a lot of peace. There was a lot of good that came from it, to be honest with you, because it really motivated me to want to be better at reading. It motivated me to not beat myself up over not being able to remember everything, to not be able to pronounce things correctly sometimes. Like, I gave myself a lot, like, I'm able to kind of give myself some grace in those areas now. When I wasn't before, it always kind of beat at me. Um, wait, why is chat disconnected? Successfully connected. Okay. What is going on tonight? Um, it was kind of weird. Anyway, just just a thought too, like it doesn't always have to be just this crisis, but I know that God does show up in the crisis, and I know that he shows up um in the times that we really need him, because he doesn't, he didn't give us a spirit of fear. That's the other thing. um his word says that he didn't give us a spirit of fear. So if Jesus is stronger than our fears, and that fear came not from him, that spirit of fear is from the devil himself, because Jesus didn't give us that spirit. So, of course, he's stronger than our fears. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I I like in the second paragraph too how it talks about God, where are you? Um, and how often does that our response sometimes when we're going through stuff, that we're just like, where are you? Like, why are you allowing me to go through this, right? But if we look at Job, like, we get an understanding of how that works sometimes through the story of Job. You know what I mean?
You know, there's a word that keeps coming up. I keep hearing it, and you ask that question. We cry out to God, "Where are you?" And the question is, have we looked for Him when we're going through things? And the word that keeps coming up is abide.
Mm,
Abide. Sometimes it doesn't. There's nothing that we're supposed to be doing. Sometimes it's just we're supposed to be seeking Him and abiding in Him
yeah.
and waiting and listening.
Hmm.
Because if you haven't, it's kind of like something you notice with your kids when they're young. They'll throw a question at you, but they'll keep doing it over and over and over again without stopping. They won't stop talking. They'll just keep asking the same question
Yeah.
until you make them stop talking so they can listen to you.
Hmm.
And it's a phase that they go through. Every single one of my kids has done that. Like, can I have ice cream? 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 Like, I said yes 20 minutes ago,
Mm.
but you weren't listening.
Mm.
Uh,
That's
you
a good
know,
point. Yeah.
and feel like we're the same sometimes.
Hmm.
The one of the worst mistakes that we can make is to feel and act like we're all grown up
Mm.
and act like we've got everything figured out and that there's nothing new for us to work on. It's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something that we can work on. There's always something that that we're still children
Hmm.
in that sense.
Yeah.
And that that he's been waiting for us to stop and listen.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very true. So what are your thoughts over there's that statement in here. It says, remember, this is Jesus whose voice commands nature itself. He is sovereign over every type of storm we face. Now, the word sovereign, let's dive into that a little bit. What does the word sovereign mean in the context of God's sovereignty over all?
So sovereignty is to be in control, the one who is in control rightfully.
Hmm.
So when you talk about the sovereign of a nation, it in oh pre-revolutionary times, you were often talking about a person. Like there was a person who was the sovereign of a nation. And this was, prior to and leading into the early days of the nation state. Usually it was just a sovereign of a state, not necessarily a nation. National identity is kind of a relatively new thing. To say that, you're German, French, Italian,
Hmm.
it kind of didn't matter what you were, is that you were part of a state that somebody was sovereign over.
Hmm.
Now, oftentimes they claim that their sovereignty came from the Lord. In a certain respect, I believe that to be true. For you know, not necessarily for anybody's individual good or ill, but when we're talking about sovereignty, that's who is rightfully in control of a group of people. So when we're talking about sovereignty here, it's that God is the sovereign over all of existence,
Hmm.
every little bit of it. Nothing happens that he does not allow to happen or will to happen.
Yeah.
Not that everything exactly, not that we do everything he wants all the time. His will is that we choose to do what he wants most of the time. That the choice is ours, and it's by his will that we don't do or don't abide. That choice is ours, but it is his will that allows that choice for us to choose to go to him,
Hmm.
because he could call us to him. You can think of it this way: the call of the Lord would be such that it is undeniable, right? If the Lord calls you, then and you hear his voice, it will be something that you will not be able to deny as being anything other than what it is. But it's his will that allows us to choose his way, but also allows us to have our way.
Yeah. There's I was looking it up just to see what I could find here, and it says God is the supreme ruler of the universe, possessing absolute authority, power, and control over all creation. And when we talk about, when it says authority, there's a Bible verse in Isaiah. It's Isaiah 40:13 through 14. But I was reading it a little bit further, and it says, "Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and marked off the heavens with a span, and closed the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance? Who has measured the Spirit of the Lord, or what man shows him his counsel? Whom did he consult, and who made him understand? Who taught him the path of justice, and who taught him knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are accounted as the dust of the scales. Behold, he takes up the coastlines like fine dust." So here is showing he's the ultimate source of power. He does not need anyone's permission or advice to act. So being the possessing of absolute authority over things, we can see that just in this verse in Isaiah. um, and then let's see, there was another one, I think Psalm 103:19. Let me look at this one real quick and see what this says. Psalm 103:19. It says, "The Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom rules over all." So like there's the power, there's the authority and the control, um, basically sovereignty. It says Daniel 4:35 explains that God does what he pleases with the armies of heavens and the people of earth, and no one can stop him. Ephesians 1:11 notes that God works out everything according to the plan of his own will. Job 42:2 acknowledges that God can do all things and that no plan of his can be blocked. So we see the word sovereignty, but we also have a bunch of different scriptures that point to it and that explain the different aspects of sovereignty being absolute authority, power, and control over all creation. So just some further stuff. Yeah, I don't really have much on, eh, like you mentioned at the beginning of going, yeah, it's a very straight, matter of fact devotional. Um, but I think what we could do is just kind of encourage our listeners that if they are going through a storm, like just to know, number one, you're not alone. Number two, he's always with us, which plays into number one, I guess. Number three, instead of asking, "Where are you, God?" draw close to him, like seek him. All who seek find. So you have to seek him. You can't just be trying to do things on your own to endure the storm yourself and expect God to work. You have to be seeking him. You have to be looking for rescue. You can't just be like, "Well, I'm going through this. I know God's there, but maybe he'll do something about it." No, we have to seek him. Seek him in all things. So, um, what do you got?
This actually, this feels like one of the elementary lessons,
Mhm.
right? That Jesus is God. He is sovereign of the universe, and that when we're going through things, that we are supposed to seek Him first. But that's the thing about lessons like this. Sometimes we need to be reminded of them more often than we want to admit.
Mhm.
You especially when you're right in something that can be difficult, to stop and ask him to be there.
Mhm.
Ask him to be with you. Ask for his presence. And it might mean stopping and praying at a time when it feels weird to stop and pray.
Mm.
You may be around other people, and they may judge you for it,
Yeah.
but that's not between you and them.
Mhm.
That's between them and the sovereign of the universe.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I just leave it with that reminder that, we can, that if you needed to hear this, then I hope it was here for you.
Yeah. And also there's this story of when he calmed the sea and everybody was asleep and or he was asleep and everybody was awake and they were enduring the storm. It's this story right here. But there's also the story of the storm when Peter walked out on the water, took his eyes off of him and began to sink, right? So we
Yep.
can see the contrast in those stories. But we've also talked about so many times of like how important it is for the people in your boat to help you get back in, right? And the importance of other believers in your life and being involved in a church that can pray for you and that you can tell people what you're going through and not just go through it alone. Because I think a lot of times as men, sometimes we like to suffer in silence. We're not always the greatest at going to get help. Um,
Yep.
and that doesn't just apply to men. I understand that there's women out there that are the same way. But I will say that there's power in going and talking to somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. That is not a show of weakness. That is a show of strength. Uh, it's a show of weakness to the world, but I think it's a show of strength to the one that it matters to. You know what I mean? And I think that we need to kind of let that go sometimes and seek the help if we're going through a storm. Um, and just be around other believers that can lift you up, that can encourage you, that can build you up. I think that's all very very important is to have that group of people around you. So, um, and also, man, like there's so many. I feel like nowadays there's a group for everything, right? Like there's Facebook groups for all sorts of things, um, for all sorts of circumstances, experiences, and we'll call them support groups, I guess, in some sort of way. Now, like for instance, if I was going through, let's say, job loss, I'm sure that there's a group out there. Number one, like local community, like if you're looking for a job or you need a job, I'm sure that there's a group out there that could help you find a job, right? You don't, you need to help yourself too. Like, you can't just stand back and be passive and ask God to do things. Like, you have to be a participant in this. And I think that's something that we often miss as well. Is sometimes we ask God to get us through this storm, but we stop doing things on our end. You know what I mean? Like, we think that He's just going to magically do these things, and we can just stop. And I don't think that's the right way to address it. So, don't just give up because you've prayed and asked God's help and just sit back and be passive and wait for it. Um, because you might miss it too. You
Yeah.
might miss the help that He does send.
Well, it says in here the waves were swamping the boat. It doesn't say that, you know, Jesus woke up and spoke and all the water suddenly squirted back out of the boat. There was still somebody probably with a bucket
Mm.
who was trying to bucket the water out of the boat
Yeah,
and
yeah.
should rightly be bucketing the water out of the boat.
Hmm.
He said, "Peace be still."
Yeah, yeah. Chat. What about you guys? What are y'all's thoughts on this one? Do y'all have you have any insight into maybe something that we've missed, or something that maybe God's got on your heart as far as this topic goes? Because I know that just as humans in general, we all encounter some sort of circumstance where this is applicable, whether it be a crisis, whether it be um, personal struggles, whatever the case is. I think that we can let fear grip us in a way that it takes our eyes from Christ and puts it on ourselves, or on the adverse, we might go to Christ, but we might become passive in the help that He provides. Or, there's I think there's so many different ways we could look at this, but just wanted to see if you guys had any insight, any kind of words of wisdom for this, and kind of go from there. Because I know it's kind of hard for us just to keep reiterating the devotional over and over and over, but um, just kind of want to get y'all's take on this too. So, and honestly, if there's nothing tonight, then we'll just call it a little bit early. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't want to just make up words to make up words to fill space. So we'll give it a couple minutes and see what comes up.
Hard to make words. It's,
Yeah,
I feel like there's no new ones out there. Somebody else has already gotten all the good ones.
yeah.
Um,
I liked while we're sitting here waiting, I kind of liked this past Sunday's sermon quite a bit, in the fact that when he covered what if Jesus is who He says He is, being the main topic point in this. And if you look at all the stories of Jesus, right, and you look at all the miracles that He did, and the life that He lived, and all these things, it's such the question of what if Jesus is who He says He is for us as believers is a is something that we're like, of course He is who He says He is. Like, why wouldn't He be? Because we believe in Him, we've put our faith and trust in who He is. Um, Danella's got a comment here. It says, I feel like we need to be honest with ourselves and God when we're going through things, so that He can replace our thoughts with His. Yeah, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's a fantastic way out of these things, is to replace our thoughts and our fears with His promises and His word. I think that's a great way to, but also, like you said, being honest with ourselves and God. Because a lot of the times, here's just an example. What if a person loses their job and they're like, well, I'm a great employee, but you got fired
Or
for
you
something. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's be honest with yourself. Like, were you the best employee that you could have been? Maybe not. Maybe the answer to that's no. So being honest with ourselves, I really agree with that statement. I think that's a very true and valid statement. Um, and I think that sucks too. I think being honest with yourself sucks. Like it hurts. I think you can hurt your own feelings by doing that, and it's not always fun and easy to do, but sometimes like that honesty to ourself is what, you know,
But you
kind
can also take that too far.
that's true.
You can take it to a place where you're not correcting yourself. You're not, replacing what is you with what God has for you,
Mhm.
right? You are becoming saying, I am this,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
which which is untrue.
Yeah.
That just because you are doing something or have done something and you're dissatisfied with it, simply being dissatisfied with it is one of the first steps to you've acknowledged it, you realize that it's not good,
Mhm.
and now you can go somewhere else. You can accept him in to make those changes to help you with that renewal of the mind.
Yeah. Vincent's wife says, I wouldn't dismiss how important it is to reiterate topics. I've been struggling. I keep having lows and then am brought back to truth and then back to believing lies and need to hear the same. And Kaylani, I'll say this too, like that is something that I have always kind of that's the mental struggle, right? Like those are the mental struggles that we have is, the devil will get into our minds and tell us something. And then it'll contradict what the word says and it'll make us feel uneasy. It'll make us feel like the truth is not the truth. And that's a weird thing to be. Like that's a weird spot to be in. Like sometimes you can learn what the truth is, and then the enemy's like, "Oh no, we need to get that out of him." Because when you acknowledge that God's word is the truth, he becomes less effective in the fact of telling you that Jesus is not real, or that God doesn't love you, or all these things that God's promised us, or that we couldn't truly be saved, and all these things, right? The more we believe this stuff and the more truth we find in him, the more he'll try to attack it. And then once we keep standing on it repetitively, I believe that at some point it stops because he knows, like, no, this isn't going to happen. You know what I mean? At least in my mind, I feel like that's how it goes. Like it feels like there's time after time after time I'll struggle with the same thing. I'll believe the truth and then the lies will come in and I have to sit there and combat it. And it's usually the same kind of thoughts over and over. But I found recently that it's just more or less like you keep standing on it, standing on it, standing on it, standing on it, and then for whatever reason, it disappears. It's, s- I don't know if that's just me, but it's super strange. Um, that's where abiding
You know,
in
it's
Him
kind of
helps.
like it's kind of like so have you watched Lord of the Rings? Any kind of
Mm-mm,
never watched it, never
mm-mm.
read any of the books? Okay.
No.
So you may know the creature Gollum. Gollum's kind of the little
Is that the My Precious guy?
weird looking dude. Yeah, that's the My Precious guy. A lot of people out there know Lord of the Rings.
Mm,
Anyway, so I'm not talking to Matt right
mm,
now. That's fine. Um, J.R.R. Tolkien was a devout Catholic and interwove Christian themes, but also moral themes into all of his writings. And the creature Gollum is an allegory for the way addiction affects people and the way you can have thoughts that keep coming back and invading and dominating the mind,
mhm,
because there's a point in the story where you the thing about this creature is that he has two minds at this point in the story.
mhm,
He's been so corrupted by the One Ring that there is part of him that has been created by it, and that's the creature Gollum. Whereas his original uh, persona, his original personhood, was a creature called Smeagol. And there's a point in the story where Smeagol tells Gollum to leave and never come back. And for a while, it seems like he does. It seems like it works. Like that. gnawing thought that had been in the back of his mind and then taken over his mind at some point,
Mm.
finally leaves. But then when something comes and disrupts that, disrupts the newfound, peace he has, breaks his view on the world, Gollum comes creeping back and is more powerful than ever because he was weak in that moment when he was disappointed. So that gnawing thought came back in and had more power than it had before. Not because he was any worse, but because he had tried to be better.
Mm.
So those thoughts, they get stronger even when you're trying to be better, when you're trying to do things right. And the further you get down that path, I think you're right. You eventually the enemy doesn't have a foothold,
Mm.
but in the very beginning, he does, and
Yeah.
it can be very difficult.
Yeah, it can. 100%. I don't have anything else to say. I know
I don't think
that's kind
I
of
don't
wild.
think I do either. I mean, no. Uh yeah,
Yeah.
reading through this one, it's pretty straightforward.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Well, we'll give it a second and see if anybody has anything they want to add. And if not, we'll call it. We'll call it a little bit early tonight.
nothing else in Facebook.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and close that out.
You. Anyway, I was gonna say. So the sermon from Sunday. Like, I think if you were like a logical person, and I've said this before too, like a logical person looks for evidence, right? And if somebody was to see that sermon or to hear that sermon, that what if Jesus is who he says he is, and they were to really question that if they weren't a believer, right? And they were really looking to want to believe, but they came with a logical mind in it. That interview that Zach was talking about is really good. He hasn't posted it anywhere, but maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Who knows? Um, but I really like the logic behind this guy because he was looking at all the Eastern religions and what Zach he got it right during the sermon. But in the interview, he goes, I looked at all these Eastern religions and they all acknowledge Jesus and they all said that, yeah, Jesus is a way, but so is this. And that's what all the major world religions say is Jesus is a way. But ours is the only one where he says, I am the only way. And he said, well, if all these other religions say Jesus is a way, but Christianity says he is the only way, then I'm going to follow that. And from a logical explanation, right? So he came to it logically and was like, hey, you know, Jesus points only to himself. Everything else points to Jesus and something else. But Jesus only points to himself. But here's another thing that I thought was really interesting that if you logically look at who Jesus is and who Jesus said he was and the account of Jesus from other people, you can find people that didn't come from a Jewish culture, that didn't come from a believer's background, that actually write about Jesus and who he is and validate who he says he was, which is insane because there's more writings for Jesus than there was Pontius Pilate. There was more writings um, verifying Jesus than Alexander the Great or um, Caesar or all these other Roman emperors and these historical figures over time, which is humanity. They'll sit there and try to, and they'll accept that. They'll say, yeah, well, there's historical writing about this guy. But these same people, the Romans, were writing about Jesus Christ as well in the same context of who he was. So logically,
There's
you know what I mean?
there's I was reading about it recently, and I forget exactly where it is, but there was a Roman historian who was actually a Uh, so he was like Matthew
Josephus?
before he was called. Was it Josephus?
Yeah,
He
it's the
was a
book of it.
Roman historian who was he was a Jew,
Mm-hmm.
but who abandoned the Jewish people and
Mm-hmm.
was writing history of that region for the
Yep.
Romans in Rome. And he wrote down the account of Jesus and who he said he was and what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, he's writing it from an unbeliever's perspective, but he's saying, like, yeah, they said he did these things and then this happened. And it's the entire resurrection story.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no reason why you would write that down if you were that person. There's no reason why you would make that up if you were that person. If you were that historian,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to write that down unless it's true to the best of your knowledge.
Yeah. In fact, it was, yeah, his name was Josephus, and I read this the other day. I thought, let's see, quick here. Yeah, I did read this somewhere, or no, I read this at the Bible study on on Thursday with the men there. I shared this document with them. I'm trying to find where it talks about it here. Give me 1 second and I'll read it here. Click here.
Danella said, another thing that points to spiritual reason for doubting and unbelief.
Mhm.
Could you clarify that? What is that specifically? I just want to apply that correctly. But yeah, speaking on Sunday sermon, like that's the very the basis, I guess, on all of Christianity is
Mm.
that, Jesus is who he says he is, and it doesn't do much good to say you believe in him without then looking at what he said and applying it,
Yeah.
right?
Let's see. Man, I had this up the other day and I wish I could find. Oh, here we go. The death of Nero.
Demonic. What were we talking about that was demonic?
Okay. So
That's all right.
Josephus, the book is called The Antiquities of the Jews. It was written in 93 AD concerning Jesus. It says, "Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man. For he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as receive the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. For he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians, so named from him, are not extinct to this day." So, I mean, you got to think, you know what I mean? Like there's if you're really seeking him and you're really wanting to understand and you're really looking for him, you'll find him.
Well, and unfortunately, if you're really trying to avoid him,
Hmm.
you'll
You'll make
have
arguments
that
for it.
you'll have that option too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you talked about like Alexander the Great and all of these other historical. We have more historical evidence for the existence of Christ than we
Mhm.
do for the existence of Plato.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost anybody anything to believe that Plato
Hmm.
existed. That he was a man and lived doesn't cost you anything to believe that he wrote things and there are things that, can be attributed to him.
Hmm.
But it may cost you something to acknowledge Christ, it may cost you something to follow him.
Yeah.
In fact,
It'll
he
cost
says
you
it
your life.
probably should.
Yeah.
If it doesn't cost you anything, you're probably doing it kind of wrong, actually. If we're to believe his own words, and that's, I don't have them off the top of my head, but
Some people, no matter how much proof, they don't want to believe, or they just want to do what they want to do. Yeah. Because he does call us to take up our cross and follow him daily. So your life, you realize that your life is not your own. So you do give up your life to follow him. You give up your ways, you give up your wants to follow the desires of Christ. And you know, there's a verse that I really like too. I don't remember where it's at, but let me Google it. It is Romans 12:1, I think. Romans 12:1. Romans 12:1. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Now, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice is a daily thing. That is a moment thing, an every moment thing. Not just at the beginning of the day, but how you live your life. Because following that, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So, anyway, I like that verse. With that,
yeah,
go ahead.
I don't know. I just wish I could think of more of the ones where Jesus actually directly talks about what we are to give up. But
Let me see.
I'm not. You know what? You do the researchy. I'm short on words for the day.
Let's see. Okay, in Luke 9:23, Luke 9:23, it says, and he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. That's the verse that we referenced a minute ago. Luke 14:33. Luke 14:33. It says, so therefore, any of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. So backing up a little bit, it says, and if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. And this is talking about the cost of discipleship. It says, now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever doesn't...
That's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, there we go. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple, which we saw that a second ago in Luke 9:23. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the others is yet a great way off, he sends delegation to ask for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. That's the full thing. Matthew 19:21 says, Jesus said to them, if you would be perfect, go, sell what you possess and give to the poor, and you will have treasures in heaven, and come follow me. And this is the young man that came to him and said, I've done all these things. When the young man heard this, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. So there is that verse too.
Oh,
Yeah. Matthew 11:28 says he invites the weary and the burdened to exchange self-reliance and stress for his rest. Like, he calls us to lay down everything about us and seek him above all. Everything about us. To present our lives or our bodies as a living sacrifice, pleasing and holy to him. And to pick up our
yeah.
cross and follow him daily. Go
I
ahead.
think we're also still we're guilty of we offer things up, but kind of with the hope that we can still do kind of what we want anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That he has told us offer up everything, but we're kind of offering it in a way that says, but I hope it's my way, right?
Yeah.
You're still clinging to the hope that things are the way that you want them to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By you, I mean me,
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Guys, I don't have anything else.
I think we better pray this one out before
Yeah.
we sit here in silence for any longer.
Yeah. I mean, it was a quick little Bible study, quick little devotional. Went through some things, so it was pretty good. Not everything needs to be long.
Oh, Miss Danella. Miss Danella says, what I said about spiritual reasons, Satan doesn't care what we believed as long as we don't believe in Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Well, you want to pray us out, brother?
Yeah, I'll pray us out. Lord, I pray that you be with us this day. Lord, I pray that whatever we're going through, that we can look to you, that we seek you in the hardest times and in the best of times, that we seek you, that we give glory when everything is going right, and that we give glory when we feel like everything is going wrong, that we open our hearts and listen, and that it truly becomes you in us, working to do all things for your good. Lord, I pray that you have mercy on us when we can't give up what we should, when we can't offer up everything. Lord, I pray for mercy when we try and fail at these things. I would pray for grace that you offer to us, grace that isn't deserved, grace that you give even before we've done anything. Lord, I pray for those out there who are grieving, who are going through things right now, who are going through storms, who need you but are having trouble seeing you. I pray that you break through that storm for them and that you're there for them during those hard times. I pray all of these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you being here. And we'll be back again tomorrow at 7:30. and then Wednesday from the church with Pastor Zach and friends. I think that's what we're gonna start saying, with Pastor Zach and friends. Like, you just never know.
Pastors, acting friends.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. But anyway, you have a great night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Adios.
Bye-bye.